While I understand that Ryanair are pulling out their base, I understand that there is a hope that they will maintain some services. And we have to realise that Ryanair is the only connectivity that there is now to the Greater London area, and that needs to be protected in the interest of business. We also need to, of course, to think about the 55 people who this morning found out that they're not going to have a job next week. We have a larger aviation sector than any other country. We're more reliant on aviation than other countries, and yet we have introduced policies which compound the difficulties that aviation is already suffering. We need to stop that, and instead of hurting aviation even more than it's already hurting, we need to try to help it, because it is essential not just for those who work in aviation, but for our broader economy, for foreign direct investment in the Midwest and in Galway, and for tourism, of course, that we get people directly into this area. During the election, I heard some people say, long before any of this could be predicted, Shannon's going to have to get worse before it gets better. We're now at rock bottom. But we do need to identify what are the key routes out of Shannon that need to be protected, and what is the strategy for Shannon in the medium to long term. I mean, there was a time when Shannon was the airport that dealt with all intercontinental transit flights. I'm not saying that in and of itself would be a solution, but it would be a help, and it is open to the government to make that decision. Dublin doesn't need those flights. Well, it's not congested now, but in ordinary times it is congested, and they, I think, need to be moved to Shannon. But we do need a strategy, a state aviation, because at the moment it's a free-for-all, and it has been for some time. And I mean, aviation is too important a sector to this country, both because of the size of the aviation sector and how reliant we are on it for connectivity and for our other industries, to make it a free-for-all. We need a state aviation policy, and that the government needs to sit down and actually make sure that by the start of 2021 that there are solid supports in place, and there's a real plan other than aspirations in place for Shannon. We can't live in aspirations any longer.